you already know the story.
Oh, okay, great. I'm in the loop.
Anyway, Cass, you go next. What's your
Okay, so
where were you in where you think you were at
I
your
let
train wreck moment?
well, there's so many to look at. I let Sarah set the bar, and she did an excellent job.
She
Well
did.
done, well done, darling. Um, so my story isn't quite of the same genre, but similar. So I was a part of an event for LGBTQ. I was a host of an event for a program in Portland, Oregon. And all my friends live in Portland, Oregon. That's where I've lived most of my life. And there was a group of friends. Do you remember Ricky, who we talked about in our last show, Jenny?
Mm-hmm.
So
Love
him
him.
and a couple of his friends came to a glitter ball because I was a part of the LGBTQ community. We had a glitter ball. I got guests on the guest list. It was hard to get into. It was super big. It was a wonderful event, but I brought in some guests. So he brought in one of his friends. Let's call him James,
Mm-hmm.
just for the sake of the show. And he brought James with him. So I've known James for a very long time, and he's a very good-looking. He's a Marine built. He's the guy you want to fuck when you meet in a bar. Like he's that guy.
Was he there with your friend?
Yeah, he came with my gay friend because they're best friends. They've known each other for a long, long time. So they came together to this LGBTQ event, which my friend Ricky was a part of.
Okay.
But he goes to a lot of events with Ricky.
But he wasn't there with Ricky.
No, not
Oh,
with
okay,
them.
okay.
He came
All
as
right.
a guest. Like he's totally comfortable with the community and has a lot of friends in the community. So he goes to things when he's asked to. But we've been friends for a while, and everyone had thought that we had, maybe slept with each other for a while, and we hadn't yet. And he was a part of the group. And I had a different gay friend who brought a girlfriend who brought a guy friend for me. And I know, right? So I had a gay friend who brought a girlfriend with, like a friend that's a girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
Kiki.
Mm-hmm.
And then she brought a guy for me because I was single at the time. This was years ago. So she thought,
long ago. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she thought that I might be interested in this guy. So the night evolves. So I have this guy that I'm supposed to be talking to, and we hung out pretty much the whole night. Things were going really well. We ended up going to, after the party, we ended up going to a gay bar close by because
Okay, wait a minute. Which guy are you talking to? Ricky's friend or the girlfriend's boyfriend? Wait, I need a line chart to be able to keep track of this.
Sorry. Let me rephrase this.
Okay.
Is everyone this confused? Am I that bad at telling this story?
No. I'm really excited.
Okay. So there are two groups of people. There's my friend who is friends with my gay friend, Ricky, James, right?
James is the hot Marine. Okay.
James is the hot Marine who's friends with my gay friend. And then there's a different guy who was brought for me.
And we're going to call him James too to keep this from being confusing.
Great. That doesn't sound confusing at all. Fantastic. So we all end up at a gay bar together, and I'm sitting at the bar with James too. And we're hitting it off and like kissing a little bit and like just like flirty, talky. And everyone's off kind of in the distance, like chilling, hanging out, not being gay. And some of them are kind of being gay because they're actually gay, but not being gay. And James, original James, don't roll your eyeballs like that.
I'm back with you. James shows up. Yes.
Original James suddenly decided that he's going to puff his chest for the first time in years since we've been hanging out together, and finds that this is a problem that I'm talking to another man that's straight, and comes over and is like all being manly and shit. And I guess I wasn't there, but my persona was there. I guess drunk Cassie said to guy she was talking to,
James too.
James too, thank you. I really, really like you, but I like him too. And then James 1, original James, kind of reaches in between. It's like, I think we're done for tonight. And then drunk Cassie, reaches up and is like, give me a kiss. And I ended up going home with James 1 instead of James 2. And then our friends had a heyday the next day with that story because they never thought that would happen. But it did. So there you go.
I love this story.
I need a whiteboard to actually remap.
No, I love this story. Like James 1 has been kind of pining for you and you didn't know it until that exact moment. So you went home with him that night.
Yeah. And then that created a very big hubbub the next day with all of our mutual friends because we're all very intertwined. Jenny, for your reference, obviously Ricky, Anna, Becca, all of our friends know James 1 very, 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 very well. So.
But just for the record, I didn't think that's where the story was going.
I know, me either. I thought,
I thought there was a James 1 and James 2 situation coming at us. You'd be like,
sorry.
You want to be pissed off about this? Well, come on, join the party.
No, sorry. I went the long way around that one. No. And the next day I got text from James 2 because I apologized. I'm like, I'm sorry that it went down that way. And I'm sorry that blah, 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 blah. I felt like that was an adult thing to do. He's like,
because you were totally macking on James 2.
Yes.
Like he thought things were going to happen.
Yes.
And then he was left as Marine James 1 showed up and just kind of swooped you out of the situation.
Yes.
That is incredibly emasculating. You should have apologized to him.
I'm just saying. But he was so, if you remember Jenny, maybe even Sarah, I think you've both seen pictures of my ex, who I used to call J. Crew, with the hair guy.
Oh.
It looked like they were almost twins. Like they were almost twins. So he was like a really good looking, well put together guy. Like it was hard to, I got like the full spread that night. And Cassandra made
Did he look anything like Luke Evans?
No. No.
was the sex good?
Oh, yeah, was it?
Yeah, the sex was super good. And then the next morning, we had sex twice again. Oh. And then we never talked about it. Like we haven't even spoken since.
Really?
But you guys were friends up to that point.
Oh yeah, we're good friends. Yeah.
So it killed the friend. I mean, it killed the friendship.
It didn't kill it, but it just like put us in a space where like we don't want to do that again, because we're both like trying to explore other things with actual real relationships at that point in our lives.
Wow, so that doesn't really happen with the morning after. Like the morning after, and you do it twice, it does not usually equal we're never going to talk about this again.
It did though. Like that's what it's been. And Jenny, you've seen a picture of this guy, James 1.
Good. I'm going to need to see it again.
Oh, okay. I sent you a picture before. He's been on the podcast.
Like now
before.
that she's heard the story, she needs to see that picture again.
Okay. I'll find one and I will shoot it over to you. All right. Next up. My sad story's done.
My sad story. Okay. So I was young and I had an older gentleman that I frequented. And I remember it was while I was in college. I remember going home one weekend.
You make it sound like he's your favorite Starbucks stop. Like this is where I frequent over here.
He's my frequent.
This is where I go get my vitamin D from.
It was. I mean, it was a great arrangement that I had. There were moments where he made it a little awkward, where he's like, it seems like at one point you want to get married, so we should do that. If you want to have kids, my parents would be, down to have a grandchild. Like that was how some of our conversations of like future options went. And I told him that's just not, that wasn't going to happen. But I went home. It was probably a Friday night. Yeah. So Friday night went out with him, went back to his place, slept with him. We'll call him Nick, and slept with him. It was our normal deal. It was great. He had a roommate, but I'd never met him. And I had been there quite a few times, but just never had a run-in. So next day I was supposed to go back to FSU. I didn't do that. I ended up going and hanging out with a friend who had a birthday party. And we run into this bar and I see Nick with a blonde who I did not know. I had a couple of drinks. Maybe I was of age. I had a couple of drinks. Let's just say I was of age.
You're probably of age.
I was probably of age. And he was, I think, 42. And
You're trying to decide whether you were 21 years of age or not, and he was 42.
Maybe he was 40. Maybe.
Honey,
Anyway.
you're in the 40s. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Whatever.
You're 20 and you're in the 40s.
Moving
don't
along.
matter.
So you go into a bar and you see him with a woman.
I see him with a blonde, and I'm usually even though I was young, I was still pretty confident in what I had going on. And I was like, well, that could probably just be a friend's, no big deal. And then I see him leave with her. And I walk outside just to kind of like, am I seeing this?
Wait a minute. Does he know you're there?
I'm not sure, and I
Okay.
really can't remember. But he walks outside with her, and I walk outside to see them literally skipping, holding hands, swinging their hands like a bad dream. And I'm like,
Seriously?
you know what? He is, seriously.
Who the fuck does that, first of all? Second of all, why are you oohing and awing over like skipping and holding hands? Like skipping?
Oh, they're oohing like, oohing. They're not like, ooh.
But like skipping.
Literally, they were both skipping. I remember the weather was cold. I mean, it was, and I was watching it and just thinking, okay, I shouldn't be upset about this at all. But that's weird. And so.
And a little gross.
It was a little gross. Yeah. And I don't know who she is. I could give two shits. And so I go back inside, have a couple more legal drinks, and then we go. God, I keep hitting the speaker. And then I go.
Yeah, you do.
It's a microphone, honey.
Yep, whatever. I go to an after party, and now I'm really drunk and not holding it together. And my girlfriend's like, oh, well, talk to Christian. And I'm like, okay. So long story short, Christian's like, I don't know who this guy is, but you're too good for him. And the chick goes, no, you kind of do know who the guy is. And he's like, oh, okay, well, then you're definitely too good for him. I'm drunk, probably should not be driving, but I am at a point where I'm like, okay, I could drive. The guy, probably not the best decision maker, had a couple of DUIs himself and needed a ride home. So we get in the car because I think it's a great idea for me to drive. Get in the car, I'm driving, and he tells me that he is actually Nick's roommate. Or he says, I live with the guy. And I'm like, okay.
So he actually lives
with Nick.
Okay, so Nick is his government name.
No.
Okay, good.
Nope, I protected.
No.
Okay. So Skippy Nick, Skippity Nick.
Yep, Skippity Nick.
His roommate.
Christian.
You've met him for the first time, Christian.
Met him for the first time.
And Christian says, I'm Skippity Nick's
Yeah.
roommate.
He says, oh, I'm his roommate at some point. Now, Skippity Nick.
Hey, Taco!
Oh,
sorry.
Jesus Christ. We're never
I
going to make it through this.
He came through. Taco! Hey,
Yeah.
I know you can hear me. Hey! Hi, honey. We love you. Goodbye.
Okay. So
Sorry.
back on track. So Skippity Nick's roommate, Christian. You meet him where?
I meet him at a party.
Okay.
And he
This is
knows
the
that
after party.
This is the after party. He knows I'm upset about Skippity Nick, but he doesn't realize how involved I am with Skippity Nick.
How does he know that you're upset about Skippity Nick?
because my girlfriend was trying to play wingman and say, don't be upset over